Good morning. How is everyone doing? Clear your vision. If you wear glasses, and if you don't wear your glasses, clear your vision, clear your mind. If you're finding me for the first time, my name is Penny. I come here a couple days a week, 4 to 5 days a week. My goal is to inspire you. Hope you can listen and learn one or two things by the time I'm done talking. So that way, you can learn a few things that are going to help you live a life with purpose. So the first thing you're going to do for me is to share this video, invite your friends. Let us be grateful to technology. Let us be grateful for social media platforms that we are able to learn from each other in our personal spaces. And you are able to learn from regular people like us. We are not the rich and famous. We have not made it in terms of media or journalism. We've not been to any formal training except a few trainings some of us have had at our places of work to be able to teach. I used to be a trainer, and it is a gift that I thank God for, because I learned to pay attention to all the details. And I learned to be patient, and I learned to learn a new skill every time you're presented with an opportunity. That's why continued learning is the way to success, and continued learning is the way to a successful life. You have to keep learning. So if you've not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please do that. I take these videos after I'm done here on Facebook, and I take them to YouTube. So that way my grandkids can get them when they are grown, and I speak English because I want them to be able to understand and, know what grammar was all about. And at the same time, there are people who left Facebook because Facebook at one time became very much not a safe space. So they left, although now Facebook is really safe and the bullies have been reduced. Facebook has created community standards for people to follow, so that way people are not being bullied like they used to with fake accounts. So if you're finding me for the first time, every month we do a different book, and this month we are doing What Matters. And this book is written by a psychologist. Her name is Dr. Perpetua, or Perpetua, how Americans will call her. And the book title is What Matters. Please share this video. And we are going from chapter to chapter, and today we are going to talk about the diagnosis of our relationships. Diagnosis. Lucy, good morning. Diagnosis. Today we want to do a quick rundown where you're going to diagnose. When you're sick and you're not feeling well, you go for blood work, or you go for MRI, you go for X-ray. When you're not okay, you need a diagnosis to be able to know what are we dealing with. So in some of these relationships that we have, we don't know what we are dealing with. So that's what we are going to cover today. So you get your pen and paper, get your journal, always have a book. Even if you can't afford like a nice journal like mine, this is for 2023, always have a book so you can take notes. That is how to learn. You cannot grasp everything that somebody is saying at the same time. And get a pencil in case you need to erase. That way you can go back and correct. Always have a pen and paper. So today we are talking about healthy relationships and how to diagnose to know if you're in a healthy relationship. And she starts saying, healthy relationships are like vitamins being poured into your body. It takes two to tango. It takes more than one person to be in a relationship. Both people need to be considerate, respectful, kind, and consistently acting in healthy ways to maintain healthy relationships. Sometimes you fall into conflict, and when you fall into conflict, as long as you come together and repair some of the things that have gone wrong, you're going to get to a point where you're going to have healing in relationships that are going to continue giving you healthy, strong relationships. Okay? And this exercise of trying to identify if you're in a healthy or unhealthy relationship is going to help you. By the end of the video, is going to help you to weed out some of the relationships that you need to remove out of your life so you can be healthy yourself. Because we underestimate the power of relationships. But relationships are very, very important. People who are single are looking for men and women to get married to. People who don't have friends are looking for friends. It is so important to have good, healthy relationships. So the things that you're supposed to be looking for in a healthy relationship, let's talk about some of them. Respect. Do your friends, your spouse, your children, is there respect between you and whoever you are in a relationship? Some of the people have no respect for you, but they're in a relationship with you. It could be your sibling, it could be your husband. They're just very, very disrespectful. They mock you, and sometimes they remind you of the worst thing that ever happened to you. Sometimes they just constantly say things that are going to bring your emotions down. Respect meaning, do they respect that kind of the relationships that you have? They are always saying disrespectful things. And then number 2 is commitment. Do you have a relationship that every time you feel like there's lack of commitment, even in a marriage, when there's lack of commitment in a marriage, the marriage is likely to fall. One partner is giving 100, the other one is giving 2, not even 2. One partner is giving 99, the other partner is giving 1%. Is there commitment? Okay? And when they're talking about commitment, if you're planning to meet for a lunch date, they'll cancel on you. If you're meeting somewhere, let's say you've said, let's go meet and do 1 or 2, 3 things, they are coming 2 hours late and they don't seem to be apologetic. And sometimes they offer help and they never follow through. Somebody's promising you to help you do something. Dennis, how are you? John, how are you? And they never follow through. So that relationship does not have commitment. The next one is communication. How are you communicating? In fact, I was reading somewhere where you want to talk. I want to talk to John. So I have a relationship with John, whether it's a friend. And as soon as I start talking to them, they are defiant. They think we are fighting. Some people, anytime you have something to say, they think it's a fight. Especially some married people, your spouse can never even correct you and tell you, you know what, you shouldn't have put this cup here. The moment they say, don't put, you shouldn't have put this cup here, they just explode. Let me take this call. I don't know who this is. Hello? Okay. I thought he's my son's school. I don't like to miss my son's calls. The way you're communicating, how are you communicating? When you try to tell them something, they just explode on you. They don't even give you a time to even tell them, what you're trying to say. There is a podcast I listened to where a couple broke up because of something that was so simple, yet it was so big. The man used to use 1 cup to drink water, and every time he drank water, he wanted to put the cup on the countertop. And his wife did not want that cup on the countertop. So every time she found the cup there, she would get so offended. And he would say, I don't see why I should move the cup from, the countertop. I live here. And if I want my cup to stay on the countertop, it's okay. But you want your dishes, whatever cup you use, you want it in the dishwasher. Put it in the dishwasher. And by the way, it was so refreshing because I listened to this podcast with Abu, my husband, and it was so funny that it's always, most of the time, is almost women who want things where they want them. But they forget that their partners also have a way, because he's thinking, why should he always put this cup in the dishwasher and then every time he has to go in the dishwasher, he has to open. He's like, I don't need to use that extra energy when this is my house and my cup can stay on the countertop. And every time he tried to communicate that, she will take it as a fight and they will start fighting. Okay, the next one is celebrating each other. The kind of relationships you have with people. Do you have time to celebrate the other person? And some people, when somebody says, oh, John is doing this, John is doing that, have you sat with a group of people where people are celebrating someone who has done something? But those negative relationships, you will hear somebody saying, oh no, John, oh no, they'll bring up negative things. Some of the relationships that we have, they'll never celebrate anything that you are doing. Everything that you do, it's like they counterattack with something negative. Oh, Penny's hair looks nice. Oh no, that hair has a lot of gray. Oh, Penny is always like, I like her dresses. Oh no, those dresses look like village girl, dresses. There are people amongst us, they don't want to hear anybody being celebrated. As soon as they hear you celebrating someone or somebody being celebrated, they have something negative to talk about. Those are the unhealthy relationships. And then the next one is boundaries. Boundaries is the reason a lot of marriages have broken. Where my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, will come here and tell me that, these chairs don't need to be here. My sister-in-law will come and say, no, you know what? The kids need to sleep in this room. My sister-in-law will come and say, you know what? Move this chair over there. Where some in-laws feel like they can go to their brothers' houses and dictate what's to happen. Or vice versa. My brother is going to come here and say, you know what? You shouldn't have put the garden here. The garden should have been there. You're allowing people to come into your space. Not even when you're married. You allow someone to come and tell you that this top, that color does not look good on you. You have to create boundaries and tell those people, no, these are the colors that I like. Someone, is going to come and tell you, I don't like your hair locked like locks. It doesn't look good. You are looking better in braids. That's their opinion. So for good, healthy relationships, you have to create those boundaries. Don't allow people to come too much into your space and take your identity. And now you have to get their identity because they like the braids. I like the locks. Okay? And when you don't create boundaries, people always think that whatever they're telling you is right. When you don't create boundaries, some people treat these relationships like they are supposed to control you. They're intrusive. They come into your business and they want to tell you that this shouldn't be here. These beads should be. If I turn my camera right now and you see my table, you'll have something to say. But it's okay and I'm okay. So you have to create those boundaries, including questions. There's a relative of mine that calls me and she wants to know everything about my family. She will ask about my kids, my husband, and my goodness, I can update her until my saliva is dry. She has a checklist of, I don't even know if she has a pen and paper or it's in her head, but she's always so intrusive. She wants to know everything about me and my family, but I have never had her telling me what's going on in her family. Every now and then, because I'm aware, I try to throw in like questions or things that I know about her family because she's also family, but she will get rid of them. I mean, like, oh, that's that. She'll try to just smash those questions, but she has asked me 100 questions, and when I try to ask 2 questions, I sound intrusive and she evades those discussions. So you have to create those boundaries. Are you creating those boundaries? And then the last one is advice and opinions, okay? Some of us, which was me for years, and really I'm still working on it, we like giving unsolicited advice. That's how I ended up on Facebook in 2017, is when I started talking and sharing my thoughts. If you go on my page, you will see I like to talk. I like, when I learn something, I like to tell another person. So every time I'm talking to someone, it's possible I've listened to a podcast or I heard something, and I used to give unsolicited advice. And that's how I started this podcast, or that's how I started talking. Sometimes you only need to give people advice who come to you. There is unsolicited advice that is offensive, that creates like a rift, that creates conflict, because you're telling someone to do something, they have no idea. For you, you listen to a podcast, maybe they gave you more details, but you're giving this advice to someone who doesn't want to hear your advice. So do not give unsolicited advice, or avoid taking unsolicited advice, because sometimes it's not applicable. Okay? And sometimes we give advice based on our experiences. I come from a polygamous family. My father had 4 wives, 21 children. My mom has 8 kids. So now if I'm talking to my friend Becky, who's an only child, listen, like, it's going to take me so much for me to even give advice. What are you advising someone who is an only child? What is an only child going to advise me when it comes to siblings? She doesn't have siblings. She wishes she had them. But I have siblings. So sometimes we can give unsolicited advice to people who have not walked, or us have not walked that path. So you have to create those boundaries and try to limit people's opinions into your own life. Because sometimes when you give people unsolicited advice, you destabilize them more, you annoy them, okay? And some people, they always get offended if they gave you unsolicited advice and you didn't follow and you fail. I used to be like that. I used to be like, I told you. Now, my other friend is telling me I need to stop this thing. I told you so, because I would give unsolicited advice and someone doesn't follow. When things fall apart, I'm like, I told you. I'm thinking I told you is the right way, but I told you can lead someone into depression. So I'm learning not to say that. And that's why I read these books, because I've not really been the best of the best, because I have my ways, I'm set in my ways, and I found that I'm losing good relationships because I'm telling people things and they're looking at me like, you think you got it, you think you have, you're this, you're that. But sometimes it's because you're over generous. You just want to share something that maybe you've learned that's going to work for them. And then sometimes unsolicited advice can look like you're attacking people, because you're thinking you're telling someone something, but they think you're attacking them. So people's opinions and whatever thoughts they have about your relationship or how you're doing, whatever is happening, you have to create those boundaries and give advice when somebody is willing to learn. And then she's saying, why does this matter? Why does all the things that she has put down matter? She's saying, because of your health. Good relationships lead to good health. Lack of health of a relationship builds over time. If these relationships are not thriving, they can lead you into depression, isolation, and loneliness. Okay? And then she says, of course, it is good to be understanding why people do what they do, but when you continue to let things slide, you actually condoning a bad behavior, and you forget to be sympathetic and empathetic towards yourself in the process. This harms your mental and physical health more than you might be aware. Resentment builds with time. Hurting and holding on to emotions builds up, and eventually it becomes poisonous. So it is good. Why this matters? It is good for you to work on these things to create good, healthy relationships. Why is connecting important? Why does it matter? Okay? When you connect the dots, so far what I've said, everything I said matters, because everything revolves around relationships. And relationships is where the children come from. Remember, most of us who are married have children. So you started a relationship as friends, eventually you did as strangers, eventually you decide to marry each other, and then you have the children. Now, you need to ask yourself, after going through all those things, what kind of relationships do you have? And she's asking you to ask yourself, how do you feel now? Because some of these things are not just other people doing, it's even you doing to other people, the way I have said. Okay? And then ask yourself, what did you notice in listening to me or listening to the exercise? Did you see where you should be understanding that your partner's cup needs to be on top of the counter, on the top of the dishwasher, not inside the dishwasher? And the cup can be on top of the dishwasher, and it is okay because you are sharing the space. The cup can be inside the dishwasher, and it is okay because you are sharing spaces. How does it make you feel when you do this evaluation? How are you feeling right now as a person who has a relationship? And then they are telling you, you need to take action. Okay? How are you going to take action? Because this matters. Take stock of your relationships. Look at the relationships that you have, evaluate them. And some of them could be your parents, some of them could be your cousins. Evaluate your work relationships, evaluate your church relationship. Take stock of these relationships and ask yourself, do you see things that you need to change and why? Okay? And then number 2, they're asking you, what can you do differently given the information that I have shared with you? Moving forward, what do you think you should do to create healthy relationships? And right now, in fact, I'm working extremely hard to apologize. Because sometimes I don't see the need, but one-time apology. A lot of men have mastered it. They tell the women sorry to just keep it going. But women, most of us women, we don't know how to apologize. And now we have children who are in a different environment. And these children, if you don't apologize, it's not flying. They want you to take responsibility. We live in America. We live in a community or a society where you're born into taking responsibility of your bad choices. So now when you don't apologize to your children, that means you're not acknowledging that you actually made a mistake. I'm learning that. I came from Nyando Chevere, where I know I'm always right as a mom. Or my husband knows he's always right as a father. But the kids are coming down on us and they're saying, Mom and Dad, that's not the way. Say sorry. And I'm learning to say sorry. You need to say sorry. And you know why we need to learn these things? We need to reflect on some of these relationships and look back and ask ourselves, what could have I done differently? Okay? There is physical, there is emotional, there is sexual, there is time, there is material, the things you give people, there is mental, boundaries. There is many boundaries. Actually, if you want to write them, let me read them so you know. There is physical boundaries, there is mental boundaries, there is sexual boundaries, there is material boundaries, there is time boundaries, there is emotional boundaries. Okay? Write those down. And by the way, the sexual boundaries is what caused us a lot of problems in society. I know a few people, females, that cross the sexual boundaries where their husband's friend asked them for sexual favors and they gave the favors. I know of people whose my husband's brother asked me for sexual favors and I gave in. I did not create a boundary. I should know that this is my husband's brother. I should not be intimate with him. This is my husband's cousin. Even if he's asking, I should create that boundary. Or some of the conversations we are having where you're talking about things you shouldn't be talking. We have to be conscious, and we've done that, where we are talking about things that we are not supposed to talk about. But try to create awareness so you can catch yourself and don't continue making the mess. Time boundaries. Do you have time to create time? Who do you allow to consume your time? We come on social media. Who are we allowing to consume us? How are you creating your time boundaries? Emotional. Who's that person who's making you mad all the time? Okay? Reflect on your boundaries in your closest relationships and see how can you improve them. Why does this matter? This matters because when you create boundaries, when you cover yourself in a space, you're covering yourself in a space so you can thrive. Any of you who has done gardening will know that once you start gardening, the ecosystem, is that the right word? When you plant, there are animals waiting for you to plant to eat. When you plant, there are weeds waiting. Those weeds from nowhere. God made weeds to just show up from nowhere. And the weeds are healthier than the vegetables that you planted. So now they are telling you that, you need to create boundaries. You need to create those fences. So that way, when the rabbit comes, when the mungus or whatever, squirrels, whatever animal that eats your vegetables comes around, you have created that boundary. Douglas, by the way, I love your posts, yeah? You have created those boundaries. Identify the mindsets that might keep you from setting appropriate boundaries? Why are you not setting appropriate boundaries? Ask yourself, identify the skills that will help you build boundaries. What skills do you need so you can create boundaries, so you're not having these rubbish or stupid conversations with men and women, so you're not just having intimacy with your husband's friend, with your wife, your friends' wives? What skills do you need? Create a conversation. Create a conversation to talk to yourself and bring yourself into a meeting and say, you know what, Penny, moving forward, you need to do A, B, C, D. And I do this. I share this is my personal space, because everything I'm reading to you here, I'm applying. That's why I invite you into my personal space to ask you, what are you doing? Because this is what I'm doing. And that's why Facebook has made it so easy for us, YouTube, TikTok, all these platforms that you guys are, for us to learn. And finally, let's put this in the last sentence or the last words about relationships when you're going to do an evaluation on the relationships that you have. It doesn't matter whether it's your parents, whether it's your brothers, your sisters, your co-workers. You need to evaluate these relationships, and these are key points that you need to write down, so that way you look around and be like, Number one, when you're in conflict, okay? When I come and say, Douglas, 1, 2, 3, the ex should have been in the, when I start talking to Douglas, when Douglas is listening to me, blame. Am I blaming him for X being here? Am I blaming him for where we are? Relationship challenge number one is blame. When you're in an argument, when you're in conflict, we are always blaming someone. I was speaking to a friend of mine, and I was so happy when she told me that we were talking about challenges we are facing with our children, challenges we are facing with our siblings, challenges we are facing with our friends. And she said something to me, as much as I know, but I know because I think I learned this in primary school. My teacher, by the name Mr. Kumenda in Eronge Primary School, it was a boarding school, taught us about taking responsibility and owning a mistake. I learned to own a mistake in primary school. I had to have been like class 6 or class 7. So I was probably 13 years old. When I look at my 13-year-old now, that's the skill I'm teaching him. Where you know you actually made a mistake. And those days they used to spank us. He taught me, or he taught the students, when you are caught sleeping, take responsibility. So I was speaking to a friend, and we were talking about weed. And you know, I was telling her about weed. I'm like, you know, or alcohol, and anything that is not like these things we do when you're young. So now we said you go to a place, we are talking about peer pressure. You go to a place and people are smoking weed. So when people smoke weed, which is like so crazy, I don't know how they are not afraid to get herpes, because you can get herpes from sharing your saliva. So when you smoke weed, apparently you take it, I don't even know if you're home, I don't know, weed was not my thing. So now you pull, I think you're supposed to pull one time. The way the weed is, you know, is you pass. You could be 6 people, you could be 7 people. And then if you didn't hit right, the joint comes back again. I'm sure a lot of people now have herpes in New Jersey, because in New Jersey it's legal to smoke weed. So herpes must be floating everywhere. Herpes is just going to finish all of us, because now we don't know who's smoking, who's passing. And then if you didn't hit, I don't know how many times I need to ask the kids, how many times the joint goes around for you to get the hit. So, if you hit twice, and then you get some kind of way, now you're messed up. The next day, you should wake up and you're feeling sick, and take responsibility for taking the joint. Nobody forced you to take the joint. And she told me, and I love the way she put it to me, I should say that, you know what, when the joint came, they are passing the joint. I should have taken the joint, because this person is passing it from here. I should have taken the joint and skipped the joint and passed it to the other person. And the way she said it, it's like you should take responsibility of your bad choice. Because the opportunity was presented to you, you had a choice. And that's the problem, like number one, blame. It is your husband's fault, it's your wife's fault, it's your mother's fault, it's your cousin's fault, it's everybody's fault that you are where you are. You don't remember that the joint came to you. You had a chance to pass the joint. Naturally, for me, I love to stay in self-awareness, to take responsibility. If I'm too drunk, if I'm late, if I'm disorganized, I have learned to take responsibility. So number one, if you're in a relationship and somebody is always blaming you, that relationship is unhealthy. Okay? And then the second one is fear, where somebody is always threatening you. If you don't do this, I'm going to leave you. If you don't, threats. You're in a relationship where you're constantly being threatened. Next time we won't invite you. Next time if you do this, fear. You're in a relationship where you're constantly threatened. It could be your wife, it could be your friend. You're always threatened. So you're living in fear. Everything is a threat. That is unhealthy. That's number two. Number three, you're always the problem. Anytime you're in conflict with these people, or it could be your children, it could be your spouse, it could be your co-worker, according to them, even when at work the supervisor is telling them they didn't do something, you're always the problem. They turn around and make you the problem. You are the root of all evil. It is never anybody else. That is slightly different. You understand? They turn the problem and create that problem now to make you look like you're the one who created the problem. You're the root of all the problems. There are people who they are blaming, but they think their problems or the original person is the other person. You're always thinking it has to be somebody. It can't be me. It can't. You believe pain is the root of all evil, and yet you are the one. Number four. There is people who love you or who show you love when they want something deceptive. They are showing you love, they are showing you affection, they are showing you this, they are doing this because they need something. As soon as they get that thing, they are done. They are done with you. Okay? They are done. Natalie, I'm glad you're out. They are done. They are deceptive. They come to you because they need something. Then the last one is the jealousy people. They are just jealous. They are uncomfortable with anybody's achievements. And that could be your spouse, could be your children, could be your parents, it could be your siblings. They are just uncomfortable with success. Jealousy just kills them. They can't imagine Penny actually has a page. You can't imagine people are buying Penny's things. They can't imagine Penny's page is growing. They can't imagine. It just crushes them. And these are people, sadly, you are in relationships with. This is your husband. This is your wife. This is your children. This is your sisters. This is your brothers. The people that you know, your co-workers, you're in the same team. But anytime they see you achieve or accomplish, they get very jealous. Thank you for watching. I hope I've inspired you. I hope you listened and you learned something that is going to help you to live a life with purpose. I actually bring you into my personal space. This is my personal space. These are the things I'm learning for me and for my children. I have 4 children, 25, 22, 19, and 12. I'm always learning because you know what? I have to teach these children. I have a role to play in their life. I need answers for them when they have questions. I cannot do that if I cannot learn. I cannot do that if I can't change. I cannot do that if I'm not willing to just say, you know what, I should have done this a little different. I am sorry. You cannot have healthy relationships when you're not willing to pick a skill or two, or to look back and take responsibility and say, you know what, I should have done this in a different way. Share this video. Go to YouTube. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Invite your friends. And let us learn together. I appreciate your support. If you guys didn't come to listen to me, I would not have anyone to talk to. But because God made it possible for some of us to be able to get that gift, to be able to talk on social media, we can talk to people from all around the world in one sitting. And I encourage all of you on social media. Social media has become a place of work. Don't waste too much time on social media. I listened to a podcast this morning where a guy said that men and women spend so much time watching football players, basketball players. They watch movies. They watch people on TV, 6 to 8 hours. They watch people who have accomplished things. And there is no balance. They've not sat down and said, I'm going to watch TV from what time to what time. You sit and watch other people's accomplishments and you enjoy watching football. You enjoy watching basketball. You need to go and watch a show called Behind the NFL, Behind NBA, Behind Skiing. All the sports that you love, you need to go and watch those sports and know how much time people are putting so they can put that together for you so you can come and consume. Wake up every morning with a purpose. And he gave the time. Wake up early and have a purpose. Go work out. Plan your meals. Wake up with purpose. Don't just come on social media and idle on social media for 2-3 hours. Even us who are creating content or who talk on Facebook, we don't have that time to stay on social media because you know what we have? We have to read these books. I have this book here that I bought. I've not even got halfway. We have things, we have information. We need to gather the information. We have all this information that we need to put together so we can teach. So we don't have time to idle. So if you're consuming me when you're done, get off, set your timers for your social media platforms, and go do something that you're going to look back and clap for yourself. And that's why some of us come here because you know what? We didn't have these opportunities when we were growing up. And we are grateful that we have them. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. And please invite your friends and share this video. God bless.